There's a dentist, and he is awkward. There's a girl that he's in love with, and he has a man-eating plant called Sydney?
Audrey.
Hi, I'm Reva Hervis, Artistic Director at Overshadowed Theatrical Productions. Welcome to this week's episode from the Wings. I have our wonderful co-host, Rebecca Leland, back with us, and also our guest star, Angelo.
No longer guest host.
Yeah, no longer. He's been demoted again, so he's back to being a guest, and we're happy to have him.
Yeah.
This hopefully has become your favorite source for finding out all the new things about what's going on in theater and adaptations and all the new things that are happening and whether you should go to it and waste your hard-earned money or not. So thank you for joining us. This week we're going to talk about an old favorite, which I've never seen. Well, they invited me to come join them for this event, but I was not able to join them. I have never seen Little Shop of Horrors, even though it has been out for decades.
So can you give us a synopsis?
So Little Shop of Horrors is a sort of kooky musical about this guy named Seymour, who's kind of a nerdish...
Seymour.
He's kind
Suddenly.
of nerdish. Yeah,
He's suddenly Seymour.
He's suddenly Seymour. He's kind of a nerdy type, and he works at a flower shop on Skid Row. He always dreams of kind of getting onto the area and pursuing his affection for his coworker, Audrey. He finds this strange and interesting plant, and you as the audience eventually find out that this plant is from outer space, and it is a plant that will eventually be able to talk and interact with the people. As the story progresses, Seymour builds this relationship with this plant, because if he appeases the plant will essentially give him all the things that he wants, like our fame and help with getting the girl and all these other things that he thinks he wants. But obviously it's a toxic relationship with the plant, and there are complications.
Is the plant jealous?
No, but he is...
It has an agenda.
He has an agenda, yeah. He's sort of a Satan figure, I would say. Yeah.
There's a lot of symbolism in the show. For sure.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
They kind of selling your soul.
You have a history with this show.
Yeah. So I first saw the show when I was in junior high, and I went to see it with my sister, who was 1 year older than me, so she was in high school. As a kid, I did shows, but I don't remember ever being like really enthusiastic about musical theater, but just something about this performance and the students in it and knowing people, I was just really blown away by the cast, and the story's really fun, and the music is catchy. Over the years, as it's been playing in Chicago, if I see it playing, I'll pop in and go see it, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. So it is one of those shows where it really depends on who is envisioning the show, who's portraying these people, because it can be done in a way that I think is the way it's intended to be, which is fun and kooky, or it can be done really dark and kind of more of a twisted story, which I don't enjoy that sort of alternate choice. Little Shop of Horrors was written by Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, who some people might not know their names, but they are the duo behind a lot of big Disney movies like The Little Mermaid and Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast. They first worked together on a show, and it didn't kind of live up to their expectations. And so when Howard Ashman was looking at like kind of the next project to work on, he ran into this goofy 1960s movie called Little Shop of Horrors. And so it was a really extremely low-budget B-movie by Roger Corman, who's a director who does all these really like kooky sci-fi horror-type stuff. Howard Ashman saw it, he got inspired. Their first draft was more of like a classical musical theater approach, but then he was kind of inspired by 1960s music and 50s doo-wop, and so that's really where it kind of took off from there. So the songs are extremely catchy and just fun, and I think that's another thing that kind of plays into the fun of the show, where if it's done too dark, it's like the music almost hints at you that like it's not supposed to be this dark, because it's very tongue-in-cheek, it's very like funny lyrics. There's a lot of lines in the show too that are just meant to be like you're winking at the audience. Like there's
and
a
we
line,
said they didn't do it. Like go ahead and say the line and everything, but like they didn't say it as if they were supposed to be funny with the audience. They said it like it was fact.
So Audrey has this really great song, Somewhere That's Green. And so at one point in the song, she has a call out to the size of televisions at the time. So she says, that her dream is to watch I Love Lucy on this big, enormous 12-inch screen. So it's this call
And you're
out.
supposed to giggle.
Yeah, because obviously TVs are a lot bigger than 12 inches now.
Yes.
So it's like lines like that where you're listening to it and you're laughing along. And so I think when it's done really dark, it just takes away from the intention of the songs, which is that like there's literally a plant eating people. I mean, this is not supposed to be this is not Shakespeare. This is, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Okay, so what about you seeing it for the first time?
I don't like it.
You didn't like it?
But we talked about why, and because you would say this was not the best version you've ever seen.
I'd say there were a lot of aspects of it that were good, but there was one specific key role character that I didn't think fit the bill.
The dentist.
Yes.
So that's the role that I really didn't like. They played it as this like really just kind of nasty man, very like gross and just like mean and like very abusive relationship. Whereas you've seen it done in a different way that you enjoyed.
Yeah. So I think what's interesting about this show is that it's a very small cast. So there's Seymour, Audrey, his love interest. There is Mr. Mushnick, who's a father figure for him. And then there's a kind of a girl group that act almost like a Greek chorus, kind of moving us along the story. Yeah. And then there's a dentist character who, when he's on stage, he's a big personality, but he really only has kind of a smaller role. But it's a crucial role in the show. And so Rebecca really didn't like it because the guy playing the dentist kind of does it more in a realistic style.
Yeah.
And these are like, they're supposed to be, I think, a little bit more caricatured in the way that they're portraying these characters.
So I feel like I'm having all of a sudden this like, from outer space, somebody is telling me, was there a movie and there was Steve Martin in it?
Yes, there is a movie.
So who did he play? The dentist?
Plays the dentist.
Okay, because when you were talking about the dentist, I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't see it. But I remember seeing commercials or something.
And I think that's a good thing to talk about too, because when Steve Martin does it in the movie, he's very Steve Martinish. You know, he's very over the top.
So he's not
goofy.
dark and
twisted. It's understood that like this dentist is not someone you're rooting for, and is an example of why the main love interest should leave this abusive relationship. But it's supposed to be done in a way that isn't like making you uncomfortable to watch.
Right.
And I think that's
this one made you
production. It made you uncomfortable watching this.
Well, that's sad. Are there any things that you feel like our audience, if they choose to go see a production, that's the biggest warning is what is their philosophy or their vision for the dentist? Or is there any other things that our audience would be like, oh, this might be a trigger warning or a whatever?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably on par with something, I don't want to say Sweeney Todd, but it has elements of that where depending on what production you're seeing, they could take it to Sweeney Todd territory, or you could see sort of more of like a lighter side of that. So,
and when you say
really
Sweeney Todd, it's like there's a lot of death. And just a lot of death, a lot of dying.
Killing.
Yeah.
I mean, really, right? The plant.
But then also like
eats.
sacrificing.
So it's really interesting that you say that because I really have never been interested in this because of that aspect. And I also am not interested in Sweeney Todd because of that aspect, which is really funny because it's not like I don't read dark stuff. Like I love vampires and werewolves. And
you read some dark stuff.
Like, so it's like I like that, but maybe it's...
Do you think they're seeing it?
Well, I'm wondering if it's like a sci-fi element. Like I know that not that man-eating plants is,
isn't sci-fi
exist,
enough.
right?
Yeah.
But it's like there aren't such a thing as
vampires.
So
there's that displacement.
Right.
This
Whereas I feel like a Sweeney Todd with our world, especially, there could be somebody that's dark enough to do something like that.
And I'll say this: I've seen. I watched a version of Sweeney Todd with Angela Lansbury in it, and I really hated it. I thought it was really dark. Yeah. I didn't like any part of the musical. But I think with Little Shop, it isn't... I think with that main
music is fun,
the music is fun, but I think just in terms of like the main character, you understand that Seymour is somebody who's kind of gullible and taken in by this plant. He's promising all these things that he doesn't have.
He's like an evangelist.
A bad one, right? And so he's taken in, and I think as an audience member, you're not rooting... Like, Seymour understands he's not supposed to be doing these things, but he feels almost cornered, like... He can't get out of this rut that he's in. He's got a bad job. He feels like he's never going to get the girl. He kind of feels like he needs this plant to be a fool person. Where I think with like Sweeney Todd, he's more just after revenge.
Yeah.
Anyone that stands in his way, he's willing to just get rid of because he's got this very dark motive. Where Seymour is this very...
innocent.
Yeah, innocent but gullible person who gets swept away.
What do you think of the set?
So you feel like you're in the flower shop. It's a very simple set. You've got the outside of the flower shop, so you're kind of like Skid Row. And then at some point, the sign for the flower shop lifts, and then you're inside the flower shop.
It was cute. Like with a small cast comes a small set, but very well done. Like they had some stairs that they utilized and some scaffolding and things like that. And the puppet. What do you think of the puppet?
The puppet grows, right?
It
like
does.
they usually have different sizes of puppets.
It starts out as just a small plant on a desk, and I think someone operates it from behind a desk, and then it becomes a hand puppet. So normally Seymour has like a puppet and his hand is the plant.
Yeah.
And then eventually it becomes a person. Their legs are working as the vines or tentacles.
It was good, yeah.
And then their body is kind of like, they're almost doing like an ab workout to make the mouth open and close. So that's sort of
Is
the
that the
stages.
biggest it gets? So it's like 3 sizes of it.
Yeah. It's huge. It's enough for an actor to crawl into the plant.
Yeah.
If need be,
If
at
need
any
be.
part of the show.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Not that that's a spoiler.
Nair.
Now, after hearing you talk about it, it does make me feel like I would enjoy it more than I have ever thought that I would. So thank you for sharing that. Anything else you'd like to add to tell people that, like, look, watch for this, or you need to go do this? What's your closing hurrah moment?
I guess I would say if you're unsure if you'd like it, I think the movie is kind of a good starting place.
Okay.
I don't think that the actors in the movies have the best voices for singing, but I think they do give a good kind of glimpse at what the show is. So if you're on the fence about it, maybe watch the movie, and then if the movie catches your attention, then maybe try singing it in person. Yeah,
That sounds good.
I think it's classic enough to at least go see once. Like I'm definitely glad that I saw it. I would see it again if like I was guaranteed that the dentist was not creepy, and then I would see it again to see it that version. But yeah, I don't think I'd see it again if I was a little bit dark.
I think it's like with any show, you know, like a casting choice or a director's vision that's just not like the original can really taint the show and make it not what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's just one of those things where you kind of just have to do a little bit of research before you see something and be like, is this something that's true to what it's supposed to be, and then is this something that I would enjoy?
I love that, and that's a lot of the reason that we do what we do is we want to do whatever research for you guys that we can, but also do your own research a little bit and find out how, this theater company is doing this. How is it different? What is the director's vision? Is there anything that we've heard about it? Did you go see it? Things like that, so that you're not shocked and you don't end up. Somebody just was talking to me about a production that they went to see of Matilda, and they said that the audience is full of children, and they were sitting there being very thankful that they did not bring their children because of the way that this particular theater company was presenting it, and they said a lot of people left at intermission.
Wow.
Well, you're paying a lot of money for tickets, so we don't want you to have to leave at intermission. We don't want you to waste your time going to see things that you know are going to be offensive to you or that you're not going to want to stand. So.
And it's also an interesting thought, like when you go see a show, if you really didn't like it, maybe don't take it out on the show. It might have been the actual actors or the directing choice and things like that.
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
what makes theater fun, right?
Yeah,
Live theater,
absolutely.
it's different every show.
Absolutely. Well, and you love that.
We
Right?
love it.
We do. We love that.
I mean, until next time, it's just me
And me.
and me.
talking to you from the wings.
She said,
But it felt like I loved it. The energy was there.